Coogs House. The Houston Cougars have a path to victory this weekend against Kansas State. They just got to make sure they prepare for two quarterbacks. That's got to be a typo. They got to get ready for only one's on the field today. They got to get ready for two quarterbacks. That can't be right.
You are Locked On Cougs, your daily podcast on the Houston Cougars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Cougs Today, the podcast about your Houston Cougars. I'm your host, Houston-born teacher and coach Parker Ainsworth, here to break down all things Cougs. If you're a U of H fan or just a hater can step by, please be sure to subscribe down below. That way, we lay the Cougs in your newsfeed each and every day. We appreciate you making Locked On Cougs your first listen of the day. And welcome back to the YouTube channel. It is so good to see you again. If that's where you found us today, make sure that you subscribe. We're trying to get 1750. We're giving giveaway every 250 subscribers. We're just over 1650, so that 1750 mark is next. If after talking through today's episode, you're not sure what another key would be or what you think of the keys, tell us. Okay, honestly, tell us in the comments below as we talk about keys to victory. What color are your keys? Silver, gold? Are you a 2023, 21st century, like plastic cards? Tell us in the comments down below. All right, so today I want to go through the keys to victory and the path to victory for Houston over one Kansas State. Now, I will say that some of these make more sense. Some of these may need less explanation than others. But first, they need to have a plan for, two quarterbacks. We get into that more in the first segment, but two quarterbacks, that is Will Howard and Avery Johnson. Second, they make sure they start fast and stay consistent. And third, perhaps my favorite, because it may be a big-time play late in the game, they got to find the third wideout. So let's talk about these two quarterbacks, because frankly, having two quarterbacks is odd. I don't think we'll see them on the field at the same time, although a good follow I like in football stuff is Dan Casey, and he has some two quarterbacks at the same time stuff when he's breaking down all kinds of offensive football across all of college football. But let's break down who the two guys are, because I don't think they'll both be on the field at one time. Will Howard is a good, not great athlete, but a veteran guy, tough runner, a lot of pre-snap box reads. He can get into a complicated offense through the air because he's been there a long time. So you can all kinds of misdirection stuff, throwback stuff. He understands what they're doing at K-State. He also understands that you won't go broke taking a profit. That is to say that you can check down, find the short stuff, stay underneath, and continue to progress forward. He will nickel and dime down the field if he has to. He was the guy calling the shots there for a little bit now. And frankly, Will Howard is a good college quarterback. Like, he's good, right? He's not winning the Heisman Trophy anytime soon, but he's also like not losing Kansas State games, right? Like, he's good. That's Will Howard. The other quarterback is freshman Avery Johnson. I saw some people say he's the highest ranked offensive recruit to ever go to Kansas State. I saw some people say he's the highest ranked quarterback to go to Kansas State. I don't know what all that is. I know quarterbacks, generally speaking, ranked higher because of the value of the offense, obviously. But he is a tremendous athlete. Tremendous athlete. Smooth runner, glides. He's not like Lamar Jackson shaky or anything like that. And if you're my age, it's more like Mike Vick shaky. He doesn't have quite those kinds of things. He is a long strider, and he gets up to full speed in a hurry, very, very fast. A strong runner, but has some agility to him. Kind of makes secondary guys miss too. It's just like quick little one move kind of thing, not the shimmy shoulders kind of stuff like you see out of like the top tier type guys, but makes a lot of guys miss in the open field. As a true freshman, his pass reads are very, very simple. It's like full box, man, press, throw and fade. Full box, off, throw in the now to like the equates to like a screen pass. Full box, outside leverage, we're throwing a quick slant, right? Like, he does very, very simple kinds of things against coverages and stuff like that. He does have a big arm, and his best throw is that fade ball. Like, he can put it on. When we coach quarterbacks in offenses I've worked in, You've seen guys like set a trash can in the corner of the end zone. You see quarterbacks stand on the 10-yard line and just take a 3-set drop and try and float it in there with some put a nice little arc on it and that kind of stuff. I would imagine those are the kind of drills that Avery Johnson is very good at from a long distance. He's got a big arm and great touch on those corner fade kind of stuff. I'll say this. He is a freshman, and he will make freshman mistakes, and I get why they didn't start him at the gate. He will, assuming he stays Kansas State the whole time he's there and he plays a full, healthy career and da-da-da-da, he'll be the best quarterback to ever go there. Colin Klein, Josh Freeman, those are my vintage. There's probably people who tell me there's someone from the earlier 90s or something that I'm not thinking of. Tell me in the comments if you got someone. I think Avery Johnson's got a shot to be the best quarterback to ever play there. And he's working his way in. Against Texas Tech, they kind of did some run-type packages for him. Against TCU, they straight up had Will Howard take a series, next series Avery Johnson. They alternated series back and forth, and really, frankly, kept TCU's defense on their toes. They had no idea what was coming. Once they kind of figured out the rhythm, obviously they could be, okay, well, next possession, we know this is going to happen. But it changed all your reads mid-game, all your halftime adjustments. You're going to make 2 sets of them. And that's why I think Houston's got a plan for 2 quarterbacks, is because as they're developing this kid, Avery Johnson, Doug Belk and the Houston Cougar defense need to make sure that they have a system in place that they understand for both guys, because they have demonstrated already they can be very successful playing both guys 50% of the game, right? Credit to Will Howard for swallowing the ego and not being too big for that either. I think that's, got to give credit because due to the Kansas State kid there. But as a defense, the Houston Cougars have to have things to stop Will Howard. And then when a substitution happens or the next series happens or whatever, they have to be ready for a defense that stops Avery Johnson. And frankly, the headset's got to be on. The guys got to be flying and talking. They got to know that from the first snap of the first possession. And if they're ever out there at the same time, the guy's got to have a call for this and a call for that kind of stuff, right? Now, if I see Will Howard on the field and I'm Houston, I want to do things like disguising coverages, sending pressure to disrupt, can't be stagnant, moving, shifting as the play clock winds down. So, hey, at the 22-second mark, we always use the 25-second mark. I would assume colleges use, I would assume big-time colleges, I should say, use farther down the shot, farther down the play clock. But at a certain mark, we were all hollering boogie, 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 and it's at boogie means at 25 seconds we're going to shift from a cover 1 look to a cover 2 look or whatever, right? Whatever our boogie call is, we're shifting to where you can line up wherever you want before the boogie, and then after the boogie, you got to get to where you got to get to, right? Do those kinds of things against Will Howard, shifting the coverages. Avery Johnson, I don't think you need to disguise what you're doing. Frankly, I don't know that it matters, but you need to make sure you're in the right place at the right time and have a player, whether it's AJ Halsey, Hassan Hippolyte, someone athletic, quick that can make a tackle, has to have a spy kind of thing on Avery Johnson at all times. I understand that I just mentioned a couple guys are playing the defensive backfield right now, and that's like an 8-yard run. You also got to have your pass rush run the kind of crush rush stuff we've talked about them being very good at. Frankly, I think that the 3-man odd front that you're in against Texas is a good fit this week as well. And so I think you'll probably see a lot of that because it kind of clogs up 3 offensive linemen, and then you have your athletes running around, right? I like a lot of things that Houston can do. I think the pitfall will be if they prepare a lot more for Will Howard or are very comfortable with their plan for Avery Johnson. What happens when the other is on the field? Or when you get that wild card, because it is their homecoming game and those kinds of things, do you get to see something to the effect of Avery Johnson lined up behind Will Howard and both are on the field at once, or some sort of a toss pass run option? Like, who knows, right? Who knows? Got to be ready for all things. Ready for both quarterbacks. And when it comes to, needing to be ready for things, we got to make sure before we get into our second segment, talking about why it's important to start fast, that you are also ready for the unexpected, because you never know when things are going to pop up and you're going to need some extra help around the house or some extra help because someone's got to get, someone's fallen under the weather, someone's fallen ill. You got to find something to help them out. And that's why you got to contact Jace Medical for the Jace case. Now, Jace case is a personalized emergency medication kit that contains 5 essential antibiotics that treat the most common and deadly bacterial infections. You can customize your case and add additional life-saving medications based on your unique needs. Jace Medical now offers customizability for your Jace case with dozens of add-on medications. Choose medications that fit your family's unique needs. Jace is continually working to expand the medications offering. In those recent efforts, they've added things like ivermectin and other options into the Jace case. Now, make sure you can, if you want to buy a gift card or something like that for family members, you can as well, and they can go find things for themselves. Make sure you go to jasemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com. Use promo code locked on for $20 off your Jace case at jasemedical.com. Now, we also need to tell you about our buddies at FanDuel because Houston plans on doing some winning this weekend, and you should have a FanDuel to make sure that you are ready to join in on the fun. Because right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. They've got the line as we sit here recording this set at a 16.5-point line for the Kansas State Wildcats. Now, 16.5 seems heavy. We saw them last week. They had Houston as a 22.5-point dog. We saw Houston have a chance to tie or win that game at the end. So Kansas State being a 16.5-point favorite feels like the kind of thing that I feel like you can comfortably say Houston will at least beat the spread there. The over-under set at 59.5. I think this is a really high-scoring game. We saw, again, Houston beat a couple over-unders this year. FanDuel is still figuring out the Houston Cougar offense. You and I both know it. So I'm saying go to FanDuel.com before they figure it out. And I'm telling you to go place the bets on the over. Houston's going to beat the spread, etc. Do all those things at FanDuel. Get that $200 in bonus bets by putting down a $5 bet right now. It's FanDuel.com/locked on to kick off the season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. All right, so I mentioned that in the second segment, I started about talk about the importance of starting fast. I promise I talk for a living. The importance of starting fast, and this one's going to be interesting because big home crowd for Kansas State. It's the homecoming, all the festivities weekend. Frankly, they probably put that weekend with Houston as an expansion school, expansion Big 12 school coming in, right? And I think the deal in starting fast in this game will be that we've seen Kansas State. I mean, Kansas State won the Big 12 last year. Like, they have a tremendous run-stopping defense. And honestly, Houston's got to start the game probably just understanding that they're going to be a pass-first team this week. And I don't mean that to say that they can't run the football. I say that to say that when I look at what Houston's done well and what Kansas State takes away, Houston should just avoid this whole first quarter of easing into the games and figuring it out and just start off throwing quick slants, reads, nows, getting the balls in the hands of their athletes and getting after it. Now, as they open up the ground game with the run, that'll be when they pull linebackers out of the box, got to go cover underneath the slants and those kinds of things. Then you can get Parker Jenkins or Donovan Smith, or maybe get those guys inside, or maybe hit Stacey Sneed and an off tackle kind of thing, sweep kind of thing, whatever, right? Those things to me come later in this game. They should not come necessarily early. I don't think they're out of the playbook entirely by any stretch. You got to be balanced, but I think you got to start fast and start throwing those strikes early because this defensive coordinator was there last year when Donovan Smith was at Texas Tech and played against them. Donovan Smith had a kind of similar experience to what I'm talking about. Should not happen this game at Texas Tech. They tried to run the ball early, ran into some struggles, and Donovan Smith ended up being 34-48 passing for 70.8% completions, 360 yards, a couple of touchdowns, also added a rushing touchdown. Frankly, the reason they lose this game last year is because he threw a couple of interceptions. We also know that he's doing a better job of protecting the football this year. He's a more mature quarterback. Frankly, he's kind of dancing around some line of scrimmage and keeping from throwing the ball to the wrong team. So at least we get to hold on to the ball in those instances. I see this, though, as instead of avoiding that first quarter that he had a year ago because they're trying to hand the ball off and run into a brick wall, or avoiding the first quarter that Houston had against Texas last week, or avoiding the first quarter Houston's had a couple different times this year and trying to run into a brick wall, open up the game, start off with some quick slants, start off with some fades, start off with some stick routes and stuff like that. There were a lot of zone blitz kind of concepts there, it looks like to me, as I watched them this season. One guy in the zone blitz concept you got to have an eye on their defense is Khalid Duke. He's a defensive lineman, played some linebacker before, very athletic pass rusher. And it looks like to me that obviously as a defensive end, he's not like blitzing. He's just always in a rush on pass plays. But some of the blitzes are designed to kind of skew things so he gets a one-on-one matchup. He's the guy that can kind of hang their hat on, it looks like to me, in pass rush. So make sure you got to find him on pass plays. Do what you can do to get him lined up over on Patrick Paul because you're your best on their best, right? And then because they run a lot of zone blitzes, I think if you run those short sticks, nows, etc., there's a real chance for a lot of yard after catch in this game. Again, quick stick routes, get a little 4-yard turnaround, 6-yard turnaround in the window, sit down in the gap, sit down in the open area, let things vacate. So last week against Texas, Houston ran a lot of what's called mesh concepts, where they had like cross underneath, cross or deep, right? What I think will happen this week, whether it's man jack on the cross or deep or whatever, is one of them's going to have some sort of a read that tells them to, quote, sit down, meaning they break off their cross route and sit in the open area because the other crossing route is taking away the defense. Now, an ideal defense would take away the top one, make you throw it underneath, and just come pound the underneath guy, whatever. Except when Houston does it, that underneath guy is typically one Matthew Golden, who we've seen do some crazy things because he's really stinking fast. And so I don't know which one Kansas State's going to want to take away. Texas felt comfortable taking away the underneath. That's why we had big man jack on some big crossers deep. Right now, they did it with man concept, so he caught it on the run. The zone concept means you kind of sit down, but you're usually a lot more open. Take what you get. I think those kinds of things are going to be open in this game. I think Houston's got to take advantage. I think the big thing, though, again, as I said at the top of the segment, is they've got to take advantage early. Got to take advantage early, often, get out to a big lead, quiet the crowd, those kinds of things, right? This is not a game. Excuse me. Whoa, that was weird. You hear that? This is not a game to play with your food, right? This is a game to, understand that you can go in and beat another Big 12 opponent just like you did West Virginia. And frankly, for a lot of that West Virginia game, obviously they went on Hail Mary, but for basically all but the last 7 minutes of that game, it felt like Houston ought to win that game, right? In the last 7 minutes, they gave a couple touchdowns. They started slow in that one and still managed to pull that off. And this one, if you start off strong, fast, etc., you never get to those last 7 minutes where you're wasting things away, right? Now, obviously, Hail Mary would be nice, but I think you got to start opening the floodgates here with a mesh rail, meaning if you're running back on like a rail pattern to kind of take away a linebacker or something to vacate that zone or occupy the corner. That's a lot to say that get the running back in the pass game, right? I think those kind of things are going to be important. I think starting fast is going to be important. I think if Houston is down at halftime against this team with the way that they grind clock, the way that they run the football, and frankly, the way that they get better as the game goes on because of those things, I think they're in for a world to hurt. I don't think they can go into halftime down. I think they got to play fast, start fast, and be consistent for the entire 4 quarters. Now, the third key of the game, as I mentioned, is to find the third whiteout. I want to talk some about what that means in a moment, but first, let's talk a little bit about eBay Motors, because I'm talking about finding your third receiver, but you got one ride or die car. Passion, drive, and patience are what bring home the winning trophy, and it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers to roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. Over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for, and with eBay Motors Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. I love that line. You're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need and the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusion apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. All right, so I said this convoluted thing to start when I was going through my 3 keys. The first, which obviously to have plans for both quarterbacks. Second was to start fast and stay consistent. And the third and final one is to find the third wideout. I've been watching some stuff on Kansas State, been trying to study their secondary, understanding what their zone coverages do. They play with a slot corner in a zone coverage, which means that there's a corner-sized body on one side of the field, a free safety-type body in the middle of the field, and a safety-type body on the weak side, whatever they're delineating that as, boundary, middle of the field. They have different factors, whatever, right? On the weak side of the field, there's a safety-type body, right? They have significantly better coverage at their corner spots. And I think that, frankly, their slot corner might be their best coverage guy. And so I feel like finding the third receiver, meaning if you're chipping away at, okay, they put their best coverage guy over here, they put their second, finding the guy that has the weak matchup or the favorable matchup for Houston pre-snap, because it's zone coverage, right? So you can't like change sides of the field mid-play on a zone coverage. I think those kinds of things will be really, really important. Now, I mentioned I think their slot corner's the best guy. His name is Marquis Stigle. Sigle. Your guess. I watched Kansas State with it muted because, frankly, I had other stuff going in my ears. I say that to say, though, that he's by far and away, I thought in watching them, their most talented cover guy. I think that if he's on one side of the field, not that he's like Darrelle Revis, but Houston could find success on the other side of the field because of how big the drop-off is, right? Now, Jacob Parrish gets the most snaps at corner. Besides that, he plays outside. Keenan Garber gets a lot of snaps at corner as well. But I think this is the kind of deal where if you can find in the first quarter, every time we line up in Deuce Right, they put Marquise over there on Golden's side, then we need to run some kind of quick little zone beater on the backside to get Manjack into space and go. Like, that's the kind of thing I think we got to get done here. He can take away the slot. Marquise Siegel can. I think that what will be interesting to see is in this game, and frankly, what's be interesting to see in the rest of the Big 12 games, honestly, is what teams want to take away as far as receivers go. Because Matthew Golden has the touchdowns, and Matthew Golden has the pro pedigree, and Matthew Golden is the guy that we all came into this year knowing that like teams are going to try and take away. But with how well Sam Brown and Joseph Manjack are playing, not to mention like Boogie Johnson has been balling when given the opportunity. Not to mention that Dalton Carnes has proven to be incredibly shifty, right? Like, they've got other guys too. It does appear to me that teams are having to choose. Like, in the first couple of games, they said we're going to come in and bracket one high, one low, whatever to Matthew. Gave a lot of stuff to Sam. And then you see mid-game, oh, crap, we got to go cover Sam. Matthew gets his touchdowns or whatever, right? Like, I think that where they put Marquis Siegel, wherever they put him, right, will be an indicative thing on where they're shifting their coverages, and in zone, that's really important. So as they shift their stuff over to that side, there's more gaps or whatever on the other side for the coverage. You can kind of, no defense is perfect. No defense pitches shutouts every single game in modern football because of the way the pass game is spread out, right? And so as those kinds of things happen, I think you'd really see, interestingly enough, Houston find ways to take advantage of the backsides of those things, right? They can run Manjack on his ISO. They can run, Golden on his ISO side, if that's the side that he and a tight end can take up the slot corner, right? Because they're trying to make sure they have some good coverage over on Golden. And the backside, you have Manjack and Brown run sort of a twist and stop route, where takes advantage of the zone's tendencies and gets one of those guys ball in open space. Or if the opposite happens, so they say, no, you have two receivers on the side with Manjack and Brown, we got to put our slot corner over there. They just got to run a zone beater with Matthew Golden and get him some open space and let him take off after he gets the ball, because then it's a glorified kickoff return. We've already seen him do two of those at the house, right? So those kinds of things, and I don't want to like break tendencies and tell Houston what exact concepts they need to run, because for all of their faults, Dana's got guys open all year long, right? And so if that's the case, I feel like they should be able to find some of those kinds of beaters along the way here. Now, on tomorrow's episode, we're going to break down some different matchups. Matchups in a zone coverage games are complicated as far as receivers and corners go, but I do think there'll be some important ones to match up on that. I think the real one here, though, on Houston's offense versus the Kansas State defense will be who lines up to block Khalid Duke and how do they line to block him, and can Houston find ways to scheme him to Patrick Paul's side? Working on breaking down more on that, but also we'll be talking about it tomorrow on Locked On Cougs. So make sure you hit subscribe to get Locked On Cougs in your news feed each and every day. We appreciate you making Locked On Cougs your first listen of the day. For a second listen, I'm recommending Locked On Big 12 because I don't want to talk about the Astros. Although I could say Locked On Rockets because Jackson's doing a great job over there. Jackson's a friend of the show. Jackson's a Cougar alum. Pick a show. Locked On's got you in tune and locked on all day long. That's probably what's called yet, right? Locked On all day long. So make sure you check all of that content out. Thank you again, Locked On Cougs, the private Locked On Podcast Network. And that means your team every day. Go Cougs.